At 9:50 in the morning on May 5th, 2026, a USGS geologist named M. Patrick was standing on the north rim of Halemaʻumaʻu crater at the summit of Kilauea. He was photographing a lava fountain. The fountain from the north vent was rising 650 feet above the crater floor, taller than the Washington Monument, taller than the Eiffel Tower, higher than any structure in the entire state of Hawaii. And it was dropping cooled, dark tephra particles back to the ground around him. They were visible in the photograph he took. Black fragments, illuminated against the incandescent orange of the fountain behind them, falling like volcanic hail from the sky. At 10:35 in the morning, the fountain reached its peak. At 5:22 in the afternoon, it stopped, abruptly, after 9 hours of continuous eruption. Episode 46 of the ongoing Halemaʻumaʻu eruption ended at 5:22 p.m. HST on May 5th, 2026, after 9 hours of continuous lava fountaining from the north vent. An estimated 6 million cubic yards, 6 million cubic meters of lava erupted and covered approximately 60% of the Halemaʻumaʻu crater floor. Wikipedia 6 million cubic meters of lava in 9 hours. And here is the number that matters more than the fountain height, more than the tephra on Highway 11, more than the Pele's hair in Mountain View. The crater floor is 60% covered, not since the beginning of this eruption, since yesterday morning. Stay with me, because episode 46 is over, and the story every outlet is telling is, it happened. It was spectacular. It ended. The alert is back to advisory. But the story underneath that narrative, the one that 46 consecutive episodes have been building toward, one pour of liquid rock at a time since December 23rd, 2024, is a story about geometry, about a crater floor that is rising, about the mathematical relationship between how much lava has been deposited into Halemaʻumaʻu since the 2018 collapse, and how much space remains before the geometry of containment. The depth of the bowl that keeps every one of those episodes confined to the crater starts to change in ways that have not happened yet in this eruption cycle. There is a calculation that every volcanologist watching this eruption is doing right now. And there is a measurement from yesterday's episode that moves that calculation in a direction nobody has discussed publicly. We are going to walk through it. First, the numbers from yesterday, because they are more specific than anything in the coverage so far. Episode 46 of lava fountaining in Halemaʻumaʻu began at 8:17 a.m. on May 5th, 2026. The highest peak of instantaneous effusion rate of just over 310 cubic yards, 240 cubic meters, per second occurred around 9:50 a.m. Episode 46 saw an average effusion rate of 180 cubic yards, 140 cubic meters per second. Wikipedia, 240 cubic meters per second at peak. To translate that into something you can picture, the Amazon River, the largest river on Earth by volume, flows at approximately 209,000 cubic meters per second. Kilauea's north vent, at its peak on Tuesday morning, was delivering lava at roughly 1/1000th of the Amazon's flow rate. In 9 hours, an estimated 6 million cubic yards, 6 million cubic meters of lava erupted during episode 46 and covered about 60% of the Halemaʻumaʻu crater floor. Wikipedia, 60% of the floor. One episode, 9 hours. Tuesday morning. The Wekahuna tilt meter recorded about 14 microradians of deflationary tilt during episode 46. Wikipedia, 14 microradians drained from the magma chamber to produce 6 million cubic meters of lava on the crater floor. That is the exchange rate of this particular episode. Approximately 329,000 cubic meters of lava per microradian of tilt. That number matters for what comes next. But first, the direction. Here's the detail from episode 46 that validates what the previous script predicted, and that has not been contextualized in any coverage. In the previous script, written before episode 46 began, the central warning was this. The trade winds were weakening. A sea breeze pattern was developing. For the first time in this eruption cycle, the tephra corridor might point northeast, toward Hilo, toward the communities that 45 previous episodes had never directly affected. The USGS photo and video chronology from Tuesday confirmed it. During episode 46, volcanic gas emissions and volcanic material were distributed to the northwest direction from Halemaʻumaʻu in the first hours of this episode, with fist-sized and sparse smaller clasts reported at Wekahuna Overlook. Tephra fell outside the closed area of Hawaii Volcanoes National Park, along the north rim of Kīlauea, on Highway 11 between mile markers 30 and 34, and in adjacent communities. Tephra, as large as 6 inches, 15 centimeters, was observed falling on Highway 11. Fine ash and Pele's hair were reported as far away as Mountain View, CNN north-northwest, and northeast as the plume developed, toward Mountain View, toward the communities that have spent 45 episodes watching the eruption go the other way. Mountain View, Hawaii. a community of roughly 4,400 people on the slopes of the volcano's east flank, 15 miles northeast of the summit, receiving Pele's hair, volcanic glass strands, from an eruption that every previous episode had sent southwest to Kona. Pele's hair, lapilli, and ash particles from episode 46 were transported by wind in a north-northwest direction during the latter half of the episode on the afternoon of May 5th. A tubular tumbleweed of Pele's hair was observed that was nearly 1 foot, 30 centimeters, long, which had accumulated at the USGS Hawaiian Volcano Observatory Field Station near Kilauea Military Camp. Wikipedia: a tumbleweed of volcanic glass, 1 foot long, made of strands so fine and light that they weave together in the wind into a rolling structure. Landing at the HVO field station, the place where scientists work, where instruments are housed, where the SDH tiltmeter road begins, during the episode itself, Highway 11, mile markers 30 to 34. That stretch of road connects Hawaii Volcanoes National Park to the community of Volcano Village and the broader Puna district. It is the primary access route for residents of the communities northeast of the summit, the people the NWS had specifically warned about when it flagged the weakening trade winds. 6-inch rocks fell on that highway on Tuesday. Here's the detail that should stop you cold. The south vent did not fountain during episode 46. The south vent never fountained during this episode, but it displayed periodic gas jetting and flames. Gas jetting continued to be visible during the latter half of episode 46. Wikipedia: gas jetting, not lava, not a fountain, gas escaping from a vent that has produced some of the most spectacular lava fountains in this eruption cycle, including the record-setting 1,770-foot column during episode 43. The south vent went silent, while the north vent carried the entire episode. This asymmetry, one vent producing all the lava, the other producing only gas, has happened in previous episodes. But in the context of episode 46's specific measurements, it has a specific implication. The highest peak of instantaneous effusion rate occurred around 9:50 a.m. USGS HVO modeling showed that this eruptive episode had reached its peak effusion rate and was unlikely to generate taller lava fountains from that point onwards. Wikipedia: the peak was confirmed in real time. The USGS was modeling the episode as it happened and communicating that the maximum had been reached, which allowed forecasters to assess the remaining duration with confidence. But the south vent's silence during episode 46, combined with its intense gas jetting, means one of two things. Either the south vent's conduit has become partially blocked or bypassed, with the north vent now serving as the primary pressure release mechanism for the chamber, or the south vent is accumulating pressure independently, building toward a future episode in which it reasserts itself with the kind of intensity it demonstrated in episode 43. The USGS has not publicly characterized which interpretation they favor. The investigation continues. The next episode's behavior, specifically whether the south vent reactivates in episode 47 and what height it achieves, will be the data point that begins to answer the question. Now, the geometry. In May 2018, the summit caldera of Kilauea collapsed. The caldera floor dropped approximately 1,600 feet, roughly the height of a 130-story building, as the lava lake that had occupied Halemaʻumaʻu drained away into the lower east rift zone eruption that destroyed 716 homes in Leilani estates. Since December 2020, several summit eruptions within Halemaʻumaʻu have been slowly filling the collapsed area. Since December 23, 2024, the episodic eruption from two vents has continued adding lava to the crater floor with each of the 46 episodes. Wikipedia: 46 episodes, each one depositing lava on the crater floor, each one raising the floor level by some measurable amount. Episode 46 alone added 6 million cubic meters and covered 60% of the crater floor. The question that this number forces is, how high is the floor now? The USGS releases periodic photogrammetric surveys, drone-based elevation mapping that track the rising crater floor. The most recent survey data released publicly shows the floor has risen significantly from its 2018 collapse depth. The exact current elevation is being actively measured. But episode 46's 6 million cubic meters is the largest single episode addition in recent memory in terms of floor coverage percentage. As the floor rises, the geometry of what the north and south vents are erupting into changes fundamentally. A vent erupting into a deep bowl, where lava has 1,600 feet of vertical space to fill before it approaches the rim, is physically different from a vent erupting into a shallower bowl, where the lava surface is measurably closer to the crater rim. Other significant hazards exist around Kilauea caldera, from Halemaʻumaʻu crater wall instability, ground cracking, and rock falls that can be enhanced by earthquakes. Close to the vents, the tephra material on the crater rim is prone to cracking, slumping, and small landslides that sometimes expose hot and molten material within. ABC7, Chicago crater, wall instability, tephra material prone to cracking and slumping. On a rim that is accumulating tephra from 46 episodes, and that sits above a crater floor that is rising. When does the rising floor change the stability assessment of the crater walls? The USGS has not published a specific threshold. What it has published is the monitoring data that will eventually answer that question, if the monitoring infrastructure stays online long enough to capture it. Here is what is not making headlines about episode 46. The south vent's gas jetting during this episode produced something specific that the USGS photo chronology documented, and that no coverage has mentioned. The south vent displayed periodic gas jetting and flames. Gas jetting continued to be visible during the latter half of episode 46. CNN flames. At the south vent, not lava, flames. The ignition of volcanic gases, primarily hydrogen sulfide, CO2, and SO2, as they escape from the pressurized conduit into the open air of the crater. A vent that is producing flames rather than lava is a vent in which gas pressure is building faster than the lava column can rise to release it. The flame is the excess gas burning off at the opening. It is not dangerous in itself. Volcanic gas ignition at crater vents is documented and understood. But it is a real-time indicator of the pressure state in the south vent conduit. The south vent that produced a 1,770-foot fountain in episode 43 produced flames and gas jets in episode 46. 3 episodes later, the conduit behavior has changed between those 2 episodes. Whether that change represents a temporary blockage that will clear in episode 47, or a longer-term evolution in how the south vent is connected to the magma chamber below, is one of the open questions that the next episode will begin to resolve. Meanwhile, episode 46, lava fountaining, began approximately 19 hours after the onset of precursory lava overflows on the afternoon of May 4th. Wikipedia, 19 hours of precursory activity before the main fountaining began. The previous script noted the 1:38 a.m. overflow from the north vent. The main episode did not begin until 8:17 a.m. the following morning. That 19-hour window, between precursory lava overflow and peak fountaining, is the operational planning window for every community, school district, and airline route affected by the eruption. For episode 47, that same 19-hour window will exist. The communities to the north and northeast of the summit, the communities that received Ash and Pele's hair during episode 46's afternoon, will have that window to prepare if the wind conditions during episode 47 are similar. If the trade winds have reasserted themselves by episode 47, the corridor shifts back southwest. If they weaken again, it shifts northeast again. The corridor for any given episode is wind-dependent. The 19-hour window is volcano-dependent. Neither one waits for the other. Here's the story that the aviation community is tracking, and that has not been told in any public coverage of episode 46. The volcanic plume from episode 46 reached a maximum height of about 20,000 feet, 6,000 meters, above sea level around 10:30 a.m. HST on May 5th, 2026. The plume moved northeast, Wikipedia northeast, 20,000 feet, moving northeast from the summit of Kilauea on a Tuesday morning. The airspace above Hawaii is some of the busiest in the mid-Pacific. Trans-Pacific routes between North America and Asia pass through Hawaiian airspace. Inter-island flights serving Hilo International Airport, 25 miles northeast of the summit, operate on schedules that assume normal air quality conditions. The aviation color code was orange during episode 46, indicating heightened unrest with increased potential for eruption hazards. The VONA, Volcanic Observatory Notice for Aviation, was issued by the USGS HVO duty scientist and distributed to all relevant aviation authorities. Wikipedia orange. The second highest aviation color code, issued when volcanic activity is producing or expected to produce ash plumes that could affect aviation safety. The VONA system works. Airlines receive the notices. Flight dispatchers adjust routes. Aircraft avoid the ash corridor. During episode 46, the system functioned as designed, but the 20,000-foot plume moving northeast toward Hilo International for 9 hours is a reminder that Hilo Airport, which serves as the primary air gateway for the communities that received Ash and Pele's hair during this episode, operates under the shadow of a plume that now reliably points toward it when the trade winds weaken. 45 previous episodes sent that plume southwest. Episode 46 sent it northwest and northeast. The airport operations during those 9 hours were not disrupted. The question for future episodes, especially if the trade wind weakening pattern persists into summer, is whether the plume direction during a longer, more intense episode could affect Hilo Airport operations in ways that a 9-hour episode at Orange did not. Now, pull back to the full picture. Episodes. Since December 23rd, 2024, each one draining some number of microradians from the magma chamber, each one depositing some volume of lava on the crater floor. each one adding to the tephra field that has buried the SDH tiltmeter access road, covered Crater Rim Drive, and extended the closed area inside Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. Episode 46 drained 14 microradians and deposited 6 million cubic meters. The cumulative volume from 46 episodes, using the per episode effusion data the USGS has tracked since December 2024, represents a significant portion of the lava that has been filling the 2018 collapse void. The 2018 collapse created approximately 800 million cubic meters of new void space in the summit caldera. Not all of that void is in Halemaʻumaʻu, some is in the broader caldera, but the Halemaʻumaʻu portion of that void has been receiving lava from every episode since late 2020, with the current episodic eruption's 46 episodes contributing an accelerating pace of fill. 4. At 6 million cubic meters is not a small number against that total. It is not a trivial fraction. It is a measurable contribution to a process that, continued at this rate and frequency, will eventually fill the bowl to a level where the geometry of the eruption changes. The crater floor has been rising steadily across this eruption sequence. Each episode adds lava that cools, solidifies, and raises the base from which the next episode erupts. Wikipedia. Each episode erupts from a slightly higher floor. The vents are slightly less deep within the crater. The lava has slightly less distance to travel before it reaches the rim. That trajectory has a terminus. Nobody has named it publicly. Nobody has identified the specific floor elevation at which the geometry of the eruption changes from contained within the crater to something different. But 46 episodes in, with 6 million cubic meters added yesterday, the trajectory is measurably closer to wherever that terminus is than it was when episode 1 began on December 23rd, 2024. So ask yourself 3 questions. Episode 46 added 6 million cubic meters of lava and covered 60% of the Halemaʻumaʻu crater floor. The Wekahuna tiltmeter recorded 14 microradians of deflationary tilt. The south vent displayed only gas jetting and flames throughout the episode, while the north vent produced all lava fountaining. The south vent produced the record 170-foot fountain in episode 43. 3 episodes later, it produced only gas jetting. The gas jetting is a real-time indicator of pressure state in the south vent conduit. If the south vent's conduit behavior has changed, if it is building pressure that will be released more intensely in a future episode rather than gradually, and the north vent is currently the sole active lava-producing vent, what does the USGS monitoring data for the south vent's gas flux and conduit pressure indicate about what episode 47 will look like? And has that assessment been communicated to the communities northeast of the summit that received ash and 6-inch tephra during episode 46? Wikipedia tephra as large as 6 inches fell on Highway 11 between mile markers 30 and 34 during episode 46. Pele's hair was reported as far away as Mountain View. The wind direction was north-northwest during the first hours of the episode, and shifted northeast as the plume developed to 20,000 feet above sea level. Highway 11 between mile markers 30 and 34 is the primary access road connecting Hawaii Volcanoes National Park to the communities of Volcano Village and the broader Puna district. 6-inch rocks falling on that road were documented on Tuesday. That road also serves as the emergency evacuation route for residents of those communities. If 6-inch tephra is falling on the primary evacuation route during an episode rated orange, what is the protocol for resident evacuation along Highway 11 during a future episode where the fountain height, perhaps from a reactivated south vent, produces larger clasts over a longer duration? And who in Hawaii County Civil Defense has the authority to close that road to normal traffic while keeping it open for emergency vehicles? CNN? And if the 2018 caldera collapse created void space that 46 episodes have been filling, if episode 46 alone added 6 million cubic meters and covered 60% of the crater floor in a single morning, and the USGS documents that the floor rises with each episode and that crater wall instability increases as the rim area accumulates tephra, at what cumulative fill volume does the USGS assess that the current contained within the crater eruption geometry begins to approach a threshold that would require a revised hazard assessment? Has that threshold been calculated? And if it has been calculated, where is it in the public record? Right now, as you read this, the alert level for Kilauea is advisory. The aviation color code is yellow. Episode 46 ended abruptly at 5:22 p.m. HST on May 5th, 2026, after 9 hours of continuous lava fountaining. The eruption is currently paused. Wikipedia. The tiltmeter is beginning its upward arc. The magma chamber is refilling. 14 microradians drained during episode 46. The chamber will need to recover those 14 microradians at the rate of 0.05 to 0. 1 microradians per hour before episode 47 begins. At that rate, episode 47 arrives in approximately 6 to 12 days. On the crater floor of Halemaʻumaʻu, 6 million cubic meters of lava erupted yesterday as cooling, solidifying, building the foundation from which Episode 47's vents will erupt, at a slightly higher elevation than Episode 46, in a crater that is 60% covered by yesterday's lava flow. At the USGS HVO field station near Kilauea military camp, a photograph was taken on Tuesday afternoon. It shows a tumbleweed of Pele's hair, strands of volcanic glass woven by the wind into a structure nearly 1 foot long, resting on the ground beside a purple highlighter pen placed there for scale. 1 foot of volcanic glass from a 650-foot fountain that peaked at 9:50 a.m., that covered 60% of a crater floor, that sent a 20,000-foot plume northeast, that dropped 6-inch rocks on a highway, that deposited ash in Mountain View, that ended at 5:22 p.m. The Wikahuna tilt meter is now recording positive tilt. The recharge has begun. Wikipedia, 46 episodes have come and gone. The crater floor is higher than it was for episode 45. Higher than for episode 43, when the south vent reached 1,780 feet. Higher than for episode 1 on December 23rd, 2024, when this cycle began, and the bowl was close to its deepest. Episode 47 is coming. It will erupt from a floor that is higher than any episode before it. And the south vent, which produced only gas and flames on Tuesday, is building toward whatever it does next.